In this video, we'll learn about finding the mean, median, mode, and range of a set of data. So the mean, median, and mode are all different measures of center that are used to describe a set of data. The mean is the sum of the data divided by the number of data values. So when you're finding the mean, you're basically finding the average of that data set. You add up all of the different numbers that are in the data set, and then you divide by the number of numbers. So if you had, 10 numbers, you'd add all 10 up, divide by 10, find the average of the 10. The mean is typically represented by something called X bar because it's used pretty often with a couple of different calculations. So if you see an X with a bar over it, that is communicating that you're supposed to find the mean. The median is the middle number of the data set when the data is written from lowest to highest. So when you're finding the median, you're going to rewrite all the numbers in order. And then you're going to essentially look at it and you're going to find the number that is in the exact middle. If you have an even number of numbers, then you're going to look at the median and find the two numbers in the middle and find the average of those two numbers. Finally, the mode is the value or values that appears the most often in a data set. And I like to view the mode as the most popular number. And sometimes you're going to have multiple modes, and sometimes you might not have a mode at all. They might all appear the same amount, and that means that, every number would be the mode, which would mean that no number is the mode. There's not a most popular number or a couple of most popular numbers. Now, the range is known as a measure of variation because it shows how the data can vary amongst all of the numbers in your set. The range is defined as the difference between the greatest value and the smallest value of your data set. So typically, you put the numbers in order, then you find the highest, and you subtract the lowest number to show how far apart all of the different numbers are from the highest to the lowest. How does that data vary? So for the data set on the screen, we are going to find the mean, median, mode, and range of the data. And since we're going to be finding all four of those values, and there's quite a few numbers on the screen, what I'm going to start off doing is I'm going to start off putting these in order and making sure that I know where my lowest, highest, and how many numbers I actually have, putting them in order so I can group them and actually interpret the data. So I'm going to start by looking, and I notice that I have 45 as my lowest number. So I'm going to start with 45, so that one gets canceled off. Then I start looking and I see that I don't have any numbers in the 50s, but I do have some numbers in the 60s. So I see that I have a 63, then I have a 64, a 65, and a 68. Then I start looking at the 70s, and I notice I have quite a few 70s as well. So I have 72, 73, 74, 75, and 78. I then start looking at the 80s, and I notice that I have a number of 80s as well, so 82. I then see a couple of 84s, so I have 84, 84, 84, 84. I can then see an 85 and an 88. And then finally onto the 90s, I see 90, 90, 91, and then I see I have 94, 95, 96, and 98. So cross those last four off. So here I can see that I have all my numbers now grouped in order, and that will help me when finding things that require me to, find a most popular number or to find numbers in the middle or something like that. So here I can see that I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers times 3 rows, so a total of 24 numbers in my data set that represent different algebra tests for these particular students. And now we're going to use these numbers to find the mean, median, mode, and range of this data set. So I'm going to give myself some space here. And a couple of things that I can find pretty easily just by looking at the data set. First, I know that my mode is the most popular number. And if I look carefully, there's one number that stands out as the most popular number. And that's the fact that 84 appears 4 times, which is more than any other number. So our mode is going to be 84. Then our range is going to be the highest number subtracted from the lowest number. And I can see that the highest number is 98 and the lowest number is 45. And if I subtract those, I get a range of 53. So already just by putting this data in order, I've been able to find 2 of my numbers pretty quickly. So I have mode and range. The next one I'm going to look at is my mean. And remember, in order to find the mean, we have to add up all of these numbers together, and then we're going to divide by 24, because that's how many numbers we have. So we're going to add up all of the numbers, and then we're going to divide by 24, because that's our total number of test scores that we have in this data set. So if I use my calculator and start adding, I eventually find that I get a total sum of all 24 of those numbers of 1,922. So it does take a little bit of time to add it up. You need to be careful and make sure that you're actually adding those numbers correctly, not making an error. And then if we divide that number by 24, we find that our mean is approximately 80.08. And we'll go to 2 decimal places for our mean. Then finally, we have our median. And our median is going to be the middle number. And personally, the easiest way for me to find the median is for me to cross off one at a time from each side and find the middle number. So I start off with crossing one off from the lowest and the highest. Lowest, highest, lowest, highest. And I do that, lowest, highest, until I start to find a middle number. Now, here in this case, because I have an even number, I have 2 numbers in the middle. And normally when I have 2 numbers in the middle, I need to find the average of those 2 numbers. In order to find the average of 2 numbers, you add them together and you divide by 2. Now in this case, the 2 numbers in the middle are exactly the same. So we would anticipate that when we add 84 and 84 and we divide by 2, we end up with a median of 84, which should make sense. So here we can see that we have a variety of different numbers to describe our data set. And then one of the questions we got asked up above is which measure of center best represents the data. And if we look at the measures of center, all 3 of them kind of represent the data pretty well. The mode happens to be the same thing as the median. The median is the middle number, so it has the same number of numbers above and below it. And the mean, our average, is actually pretty close to the median. So they're all pretty great representations of this data set, and they just give you a different feel for how that data is distributed. So if we look at this example here, it has the same data set and has all of the numbers in order, but now it's saying that we're going to change one of the student scores. So it's saying one of the students, they retook their original test and they ended up with a 74% on their makeup test. So you can see that I've removed the 65% and I've inserted the 74% in the correct location. And it says which measures, median, mean, mode, or range, will change as a result of this. So if we take a look, remember that the mode is our most popular number. Inserting the 74 results in no change to our mode. In order for the mode to change, one number would have to overtake the other as the most popular or become the same. And in this case, the mode, it's still 84 because there are 4 84s in this particular problem. Then if we look at the range, because the range only deals with the highest number and the lowest number, because it only deals with those two and finding the difference, this change in the middle has no impact on the range either. Our mean, remember that we added all of the numbers up and then divided by 24 numbers. Because this number increased up by 9, our mean would change. And because it increased up by 9, our mean would increase. And it might not be by a lot, but it would increase by a little. So we would need to take our total, which was before 1922, we would add 9 onto that, so it would be 1931 divided by 24. And our mean would raise by just a little bit and become 80.46. Then our median, remember we were crossing off numbers to find that middle number. Our median, because this 65 stayed in the lower half of the data, it just moved to a different area. It didn't change the number that was in the middle because we would still cross off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we would have these two numbers still in the middle. So because it didn't actually flip to the upper side of the data, the median will have no change as well. And sometimes there'll be a change to the median and sometimes there won't. You just have to pay attention to where did that data move to. Did it stay on the same side, the same half of the data, or did it move to the other parts of the data? But sometimes changing a value can actually have an impact on these measures of center and variation. So here's a different way of representing data. So here we have a frequency table that shows the hours of sleep that students could have gotten, and then the number of students that received that many hours of sleep. And here we're going to find mean, median, mode, and range of this data as well. So I'm going to start off with some of the easy ones. First, I notice that my mode is my most popular number. Now, written in this form, the mode is really easy to find because the most popular number is 8 hours of sleep with 10 students. So here our mode is going to be 8. So 8 hours of sleep is the most popular number of hours of sleep that the students in this data set received. Our range is still going to be the highest number subtracted from the lowest number. We just have to make sure we subtract the right numbers. And in this case, remember, the number that we're looking at is how many hours of sleep did these students actually receive. So our range is going to be 10 minus 5, which gives us a total of 5 hours. So we had our highest number of sleep here, our lowest number of sleep here, and so we're able to find those two values fairly quickly. What can be a little trickier to navigate is the mean and the median. So in order to find our mean, we're still going to find an average, but we're going to have to find the data in a little bit different of a way. So first we have to find our total number of students. Well, our total is going to be all of these numbers added up. So if we take 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10 plus 2 plus 1, we end up with a total of 31 students. So that's going to be what we divide by because we have 31 students that in total were a part of this study. So that's going to be our denominator here. Now, we also have to find the total number of hours of sleep. And what you have to keep in mind is this data is showing you that there are 4 5s. So we have 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. We then have 6 6s. So we have 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. And if you want to write out all 31 scores and add them up that way, that's perfectly fine. A slightly easier way to do this is, okay, we know that there are 4 students that get 5 hours of sleep. Well, yes, we could write 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. We could also write this as 5 times 4 to represent that particular data. We also know we have 6 sixes. So we could represent that as, 6 times 6. So I'm going to erase this because I'm not going to write out all 31. Instead, I'm going to use that little trick instead, using my knowledge of how multiplication works. So here, if I go back to add up all my numbers, I know that I have a total of 4 that sleep 5 hours, 6 that sleep 6 hours, 8 kids that sleep 7 hours, 10 kids that sleep 8 hours, 2 kids that sleep 9 hours, and 1 that sleeps 10. And then if I perform all those multiplications and additions, I find I have a total of 220. So I'm going to take 220, divide by 31, and I find that the average number of hours of sleep for these students is about 7.10 hours of sleep. Now the last thing that I need to do is I need to find the median. And again, sometimes the easiest way to find this one is to write out all of the number of hours and then cross them off in order to find that middle value. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I know that I have 4 5s, so I have 5, 5, 5, 5. Then I have 6 sixes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I then have 8 sevens, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 10 eights, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I have 9 twice and 10 once. So here to find my middle number, I'm going to start crossing off numbers from the bottom and then the top to find the middle. I'm going to start off crossing off a few more than 1 to start because I know I have a ways to go. So I'm going to cross off 5 from the bottom, 5 from the top, 5 from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 5 from the top. Now that I'm getting closer, I'm going to do maybe, 2s. So I got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and now I can see I have 3 left in the middle, so I do 1 and 1, and there is my middle number. So my median, which is the middle number that is in the middle when the data set is written in order, is going to be 7 hours of sleep. So regardless of how this data is written, whether you're given every number or you're given a frequency table, we should be able to calculate these measures of center and variation.